Hey guys, so I am live right now, and I am not doing any sort of AMBW or AMWF or Asian, just anything regarding that. Like this is for like the movie crowd. And I am picking up where I left off last time with the tier ranking for the MCU movies and TV shows. So let's get right back into that, shall we? Um, I'm just gonna share the screen. There we go. So yeah. So picking off where we left off last time, I'm going to start ranking. I'm going to start with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume Two. So for this one, it's going in trash because it's just not really that entertaining. I just thought it was overly long. Um, I feel like certain characters like Mantis and then, well, I guess yeah, it's mainly her that sort of got on my nerves, but also Drax was sort of getting on my nerves too. He wasn't as funny. I feel like this sequel trying to ramp up the comedy, but it also tried to go darker in certain places. So that's why I sort of, and for me, for me, like it's sort of like a big problem with a lot of movies actually that try to sort of balance two different tones at once. It doesn't always work, and in this case, it definitely didn't work for me. I kind of enjoyed the first one, the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but it wasn't like for me. It was just okay. It was really really overrated. Um, I feel like the general consensus with this one, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume Two, is that it was not as good as the first one, and I definitely agree with that. Um, there are certain, I mean, there's certain things. You know what? Like, okay, I will say this. Like, I actually would have liked it if the movie had stuck to a darker tone for the whole thing. Um, I think that way it would have been, it would have been more. I don't know. It just would have been a better film. Um, and so, yeah, but like the climax is overly long. It's really long. There's certain bits that are just not funny to me. Like the whole part where like Star Lord turns into Pac Man when he's fighting his dad. That part to me was not. It just didn't work. Uh, and then what else? Yeah, I don't know. It's just I just don't like this movie. And for me, Drax. I mean, for me, honestly, Drax. What they do with Drax's character in both these movies so far, and also in the other movies that he's in, he's turned into a joke. But he's not really like a funny joke. He's just kind of supposed to be like this strong warrior or whatever. Or at least that's how it is in the comics, I think. And then in the movies, he's just the complete opposite. He's basically like a big buffoon who gets his ass kicked a lot. So that's sort of very untrue to the source material. But again, this isn't. Remember, this is not the comics. This is the MCU. So the MCU is not the comics at all. So I don't know. It's just not a great movie. Basically, I just had a lot of problems with it. Very long film. Um, I like the bits with what's his name, Michael Rooker's character, and I thought he was probably the standout in this film. I thought he did a really good performance. Like I said, this film tries to balance the light with the dark, and so at times it tries to be really sad and emotional, and so but for me it was really uneven. But yeah, Michael Rooker's performance is probably one of the highlights of it. Uh, yeah, so spoiler alert: his character dies, and I thought like his relationship with Quill or Peter Quill, his like adopted son or whatever, um, it's sort of rushed, and so like I get that they had to sacrifice his character for dramatic effect, but at the same time, this is only the second movie that we've seen him in, so that kind of that emotional attachment is kind of forced and it's kind of rushed. But you know, it's not the worst movie in the MCU. It's just not the best either. It's far from it. Um, so yeah. So let's go. Okay. So next one we have Thor Ragnarok, which is also trash. I'm putting Thor Ragnarok in the trash category because it's. Let's say we're talking about tone again. So it's this basically this movie is a flat out comedy, and as a comedy, it actually is pretty funny. It has some very funny moments to it. what's his name, the guy who plays Thor, Chris Hemsworth. He was pretty good in that. He's actually quite a talented performer, especially when it comes to comedy. He's actually quite good at it. And so, and the action scenes are kind of cool. But then again, you know, um, we're sort of focusing on tone again. I feel like as a comedy, it works. As a Thor movie, it's trash because Thor is supposed to be epic, it's supposed to be dark and serious and gritty and all that stuff. And Thor Ragnarok is not. Thor Ragnarok is flat out comedy. It's basically Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor. Oh, and let's see. So yeah, that's basically what it is. It just tries to mimic Guardians of the Galaxy, and at times I will say in general, it's probably funnier. I think funnier than Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which I just reviewed. Um, but it's not, it's Thor. It's Thor Ragnarok, and if you know anything about the comics, Ragnarok is basically the destruction of everything of Asgard, and that does happen in the movie. But even that is sort of treated as like a punchline to a joke. It's just to me, my honest thoughts are that Marvel and the studio heads at Marvel cannot figure out what to do with Thor's character because they've sort of they've retired like the other characters who have been in the MCU for a while now, but his character is still there, and so I feel like they're still trying to sort of build on his character and develop him further, but they honestly they probably just don't know what to do with him. So um, as a comedy, it's good. As a Thor movie, it's trash. Because Thor is not supposed to be Thor is not supposed to be comedic, and Thor Ragnarok, the event of Ragnarok, is not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be dramatic and sad and intense, and it's none of those things. Um, so yeah, literally everybody and everything in this movie is treated as a fucking joke, and I hate that. So that for me, that's why this movie is trash. So okay. So next we have Spider-Man: Far From Home. Uh, I would say I would put Spider-Man: Far From Home not great, not horrible, standard MCU fare. I would put it there. It's basically average. Um, the one thing that saves it from being trash for me is I don't know, it's maybe like the visual effects or like the action scenes because I think the action scenes in this movie are quite good. Especially any scene involving uh, what's Jake Gyllenhaal's character, where he faces on Spider. Now we're back. The whole third act works because of the action, because it's very cool, and that's sort of the point of the antagonist in this film. It's all very visual. It's all spectacle. It's all a lot of special effects, and it works to that degree. Um, but like, yeah, it's just it's kind of like suffers from the same thing as Homecoming. I haven't reviewed that yet, but I will. Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Far From Home is sort of they're very kind of immature. Like they're very made for like a much younger audience. And when the first when the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies came out, they came out in like early 2000s. So I was still like a teenager at that point. I was still in high school. I was a kid when I saw this movie. So I grew up with these movies, and but even those movies are more mature than these ones that we've gotten, the new ones. And I just feel like they're kind of Marvel is kind of taking their time to like develop the Spider-Man character and his sort of his journey or his story, whatever, throughout the MCU. So I guess in that regard, that's not surprising. Just kind of taking like the Harry Potter approach to it, but yeah, it's not the greatest movie. It's not the worst movie either. It's definitely better than Homecoming, but it's not Marvel's best. Definitely not, and definitely not the best Spider-Man movie either. So we're gonna keep that there. Let's see. So next one we have Captain America: First Avenger. I'm gonna put this in better than it should have been. I feel like this movie does not get enough love as it should. It's a really fun movie. It's a period piece, so that's different from a lot of the MCU films. It's set during World War II, and it's quite entertaining. It's basically a superhero flick mixes like World War II era set in that time period, and it's set against World War II. So you get to see a character Captain America play aka Steve Rogers, and sort of how he goes from being this basically short weakling or whatever, to becoming the person that he is destined to become, Captain America. Like that part was pretty cool. I mean, certain things are rushed, but at the same time, we gotta remember this is a 2-hour origin movie, and they only had so much time to tell the whole story. It's not like a TV show where they could take their time to develop things, over like over a whole season. They had 2 hours to do it, and considering that, it was pretty good. Um, yeah, it was pretty good. I think like the what it's lacking in the sort of, I guess, the third act is a little bit weaker. It's not as strong as, like, I guess, some other movies or whatever. It's especially during the final fight between Red Skull and Captain America. It's not great. And the action is definitely not as good as it is in Winter Soldier, but then again, that's like entirely different movie and directors and whatnot. So, plus Captain America: First Avenger was like one of their Phase One movies, which means that Marvel was still sort of trying to gain its footing and establish its identity and whatnot. And so I mean, yeah, it's not the worst. It's not the best movie. It's not the worst. It's actually one of my favorite MCU films, really. But a lot of people will probably tell you otherwise. A lot of people don't like this movie for some reason, and maybe it's because the Winter Soldier is so good. Because Winter Soldier is a better film, but Winter Soldier is not as fun as the first Avenger. The first Avenger is a lot of fun, um, and of course, it establishes the nearly decade-long romance between Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter. And of course, they end up together in Endgame, but it takes almost 10 years to get there. So this establishes that. And Haley Atwell is quite good as Peggy Carter. Chris Evans is pretty good as Captain America. And yeah, it's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. So I'll definitely put it in better than it should have been. So it's up there. It's definitely up there. Let's see what else. Okay, now we have Thor: The Dark World, which is trash. Um, well, actually, you know what? Screw this. Well, I don't know. Okay. So yeah. So yeah, I put Thor: The Dark World in insult to trash because it really is not that good. It's actually quite terrible, really. It's like, even like if it weren't like an MCU flick, it would still be quite terrible. Actually, it's probably worse. Um, it's it's a sequel to Thor, but it's still not as good. Oh, and we're back. So yeah, so basically, and the villain is like the worst in MCU. It's just this guy covered in prosthetics and makeup. The action, I will say this, for such a terrible movie, it has kind of a fun third act. Um, but other than that, it's very standard. There's nothing really that stands out. Like I said, the villain is terrible. Love story between Thor and Jane is pretty bad too. I don't really know why they have Natalie Portman in there, or how they got her to sign on to do these movies in the first place. Because she's like honestly way better than this kind of material. So um, I don't know. Maybe it was just for the money. It was a paycheck or something. I do remember that the director of Wonder Woman, Patty Jenkins, was originally supposed to direct this one, and then they fired her or something like that, or she left, and then Natalie Portman was not happy about that, even though she still ended up in this movie. Natalie Portman did, but yeah. So I don't like this movie. It's very average. There's not a whole lot of good things about it. And again, they don't know what to do with Thor. They don't know. We have Loki in there, but like it's like Loki's kind of like a one-dimensional character too. Like he's really overrated. The only reason he's in there is because like he has a lot of fans and who are mostly probably like like preteen girls or something like that. So really, this whole the Thor franchise or part of the MCU is kind of it's fucked. Like it's not great. It's not great. So anyway, move on from that. So next we have Doctor Strange, which I'm putting in better than it should have been, because for me that film is a lot of fun. A lot of people give it a lot of flack for some reason. To me, I have the unpopular opinion, I guess, and that I think it's a good movie. I think it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I think it tries to do certain things differently. I think it succeeds for the most part, and a lot of people compare it to Iron Man, which is true, but I mean, it's like, what are you gonna do? Because that's this movie follows his comic book origins, basically. Like it's pretty faithful to that, and I mean, like I said, the comparisons to Iron Man, I guess, are inevitable, but it's still a fun movie. The special effects are fine. Action in the third act especially works really well, and the final confrontation or whatever at the end is done very differently than most Marvel movies. It's not done the same way as most films are, and so I like that this movie takes chances. I think the villain was sort of underused, but in other films, villain has been used worse than this one was. So I guess it's not great, but not terrible. And yeah, I guess it also sets up certain things for the future, which have yet to pay off, but hopefully they will, especially with the sequel coming out next year. So yeah, I mean, it's a fun movie. There's certain characters like Rachel McAdams' character who was completely wasted. I don't really know what she's doing in this movie. The same thing with Natalie Portman's character in Thor, but again, I guess sometimes people just need to pay the bills, right? So, um, but yeah, no, it's fine. It's a fun movie. I think it's really underrated. I think it's a lot of fun. I like Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. I thought he did a good job. He's used a lot more effectively in Infinity War, but this being his first movie, it's not that bad. So I would put it in better than it should have been. So that's why. Then we have, let's see. Okay, so we have next one. We have the Incredible Hulk, which I will put in not great, not terrible. Standard MCU fare. It's because for me, um, it's well for me. Okay, so this is factually going off the facts order. This is technically the second MCU film following Iron Man. So it's sort of. I think it sort of got a bad rep because it wasn't as fun or as lighthearted as Iron Man was. Because the Incredible Hulk is by nature like a more serious character. So because of that, I feel like it got a lot of flack because it wasn't as enjoyable or energetic as Iron Man. But once he turns into the Hulk, like the action scenes are really fucking intense. They're actually really well done, especially the last the third act fight. Like it's really good. Um, it's just, I mean, yeah, it's like I remember watching it in theaters. It was just it's a fun movie to see with a big crowd, and I think Edward Norton does a pretty good job as Bruce Banner. It's just too bad following all the controversy or whatever that he was fired or quit or whatever. I think he would have made a good Bruce Banner in like, continuing on after the Incredible Hulk movie, but it just wasn't meant to be. Um, there are certain characters in here that sort of come back later on in other films, like Civil War, and then also most recently a Shang-Chi, and then there's also a She-Hulk show coming next year that I think will feature certain characters in it, or a lot of characters. So, I'm looking forward to that because I did enjoy this movie. It's just certain things in it that I didn't. Well, you know what? Hang on. That's okay. I will put better than it should have been. Actually, it's actually pretty good. It's I would say it's better than well, yeah, it's definitely better than Spider-Man. So it's yeah. So I would say okay, it's better than it should have been. Better than Ant-Man. Better than Ant-Man. It's a fun movie. I feel like it's unfortunate due to I guess the legal rights situation with Universal that this movie did not get a sequel. It's been over 13 years since 2008 it was released and there was still no sequel, and so that's unfortunate. But also the movie didn't do that well financially. I think it made like less than 150 million domestically. Iron Man did really well, but Incredible Hulk did not do that well. So unfortunately, um, yeah, I guess due to those reasons, it just didn't get a sequel. But it's okay. I like the movie. It's a fun movie. It's not as bad as a lot of people say it is, and it's definitely better than the Ong Lee movie back in 2003. That movie was trash. That's absolute trash. Um, okay, so speaking of trash, we have Spider-Man Homecoming, which is yes, I'm putting it in trash because it is an awful fucking. It's just not a. energetic movie. It's boring. It's slow. It's really slow. It's the first Spider-Man movie that's set in the MCU. So of course, before that we had the Tobey Maguire movies and the Andrew Garfield movies, and those movies, even the Andrew Garfield movies, had more energy and were more exciting and were more fun to watch. And this movie is not fun to watch. This movie is like watching like a recap of my high school years, which I don't want to relive because those years were not fun. Um, but this movie is boring. It's slow. Spider-Man doesn't really fight anyone. Spider-Man, when I thought about it, Spider-Man doesn't actually throw a punch. He doesn't throw a single punch in this whole movie. In this whole movie, he doesn't throw a single punch, and it's boring as fuck. And so Michael Keaton, thankfully, is the only good thing about this movie. Michael Keaton plays the Vulture, and he's quite good in this movie. Actually, he's very good. Actually, but even he can't save this entire movie. So as a result, this movie is trash. I'm sorry, Zendaya is not a good Mary Jane or whoever she's supposed to be. I don't like her character. I don't feel like her chemistry with Tom Holland works. I wanted the redheaded Mary Jane, but I don't know. So hey, what's up, Sean? Uh, Sean, if you want to jump in here, man, like, did you want to jump in? I'm doing a tier ranking really quickly. If you do, let me know. I'll send you the link. Um, but yeah, so Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Trash. It's what it should be called because it's a trash movie. Um, and it takes too long to get going. It's boring as fuck. Okay, hang on. So I'll just right here. There you go. And yeah, it's just I don't like this movie. I mean, I don't like this movie. If you're watching this live on the replay, please don't watch Spider-Man Homecoming. It's really bad. Marissa Tomei. It's. I like the fact that they went younger with Aunt May, because obviously in the other movies, Aunt May is old as fuck. She's like 100, and I've always wondered why Aunt May is so old. Like, I mean, at that point, she should be his grandma, not his aunt. It's kind of weird. Um, oh, Sean, it says your devices are not connected or something. Hang on. There you go. What's up, Sean?
All right. Hey.
Well, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the channel for the first time, man. Um,
Yeah.
so
Thanks.
yeah, man, no problem. So yeah, it's just Sean, just sort of like I explained. I think no, I explained on Chillmonger stream yesterday, but basically, I'm trying to expand this channel so that we do like movie talk too. So it's not just the other stuff that I used to do because the other stuff is boring. It makes you money, but it's not fun.
That's
Um,
cool.
but yeah. So I'm just going through the rankings here. But we only got a few movies left. But just looking at it over, like, do you agree with my ranking, like so far these movies?
Well, honestly, I would have to take some time to like look at it, but
Hmm.
I do have to say your like conversation. I don't know if she's actually like considered Mary Jane. I think all three of them from all three Spider-Mans are different.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um.
I don't mind her as an actress, but yeah, she's definitely overrated.
Yeah.
She's just
She's
like competent.
exactly. Yeah. She's just kind of like she's there. Like I've heard rumors. I've heard rumors of what might happen to her. I guess in No Way Home. Um.
Mm,
But also not just her, but what might happen to Aunt May. Things will happen. Like things get pretty dark in this in the way home. Apparently, I'm not gonna spoil it, but from what I've
uh,
heard, it sounds pretty dark. Um,
okay,
but
damn.
anyway, yeah. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward. I hope. I think at this point, everyone knows that like all the Spider-Men are gonna be in it.
Yeah,
Like that's like the worst kept secret, man. Like really, no,
yeah.
everyone knows.
They're basically
Um,
just memeing at this point.
yeah, no, I know, and they're supposed to be in the new trailer that's gonna premiere on Tuesday, I think. Um, but
Oh,
we'll
really?
see.
Yeah, because it's like it's already spoiled. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, God.
I feel, you know what I feel like with these Marvel movies, like with WandaVision, especially this WandaVision set was a perfect example of this, because I feel like after Endgame, everyone's expectations of the MCU like skyrocketed, and so they're extremely like unrealistic. Like you know what I mean? Like what happened with WandaVision was that like everyone had unrealistic expectations. You know what I mean? And then when like the finale happened and nothing cool happened, like everyone got pissed. You know, but I mean, what'd you expect? It's a Disney Plus show. It's not like Avengers
Yeah.
Endgame. Like,
Hmm.
so
Yeah, I agree. So where's the first Captain America? Where is that
Oh,
on
okay.
here?
Okay, so first Captain America, I put it on better than it should have been.
Uh yeah, I mean, I think that's the potential it had. I just thought they kind of wasted it, honestly.
Mm.
Like the first 15 minutes I was totally into, and the ending was awesome, which they then kind of ruined a bit in Winter Soldier. But everything in between that I feel like was a bit of a waste, honestly. Kind of forgot most that happened during it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like first Avenger is kind of it's very underrated, and I feel like a lot of the reason why people don't really give it as much love is because Winter Soldier is so much better than it. Like
Yeah,
it's like Winter Soldier and Civil War. I mean, they're both good
yeah,
movies. Like I feel like
yeah,
First Avenger, it has had the toughest job of setting up Captain America. That's the
yeah,
thing. Like that was gonna always be the most
yeah. Like,
difficult.
it definitely isn't bad. I don't get why people say that. Definitely at least standard MCU, film.
Exactly, exactly. And I actually put that right next on the same level as Incredible Hulk. Do you agree with that?
Mm. Incredible Hulk, gets over underlooked or whatever shit on for like a lot of stupid reasons, honestly, and just because they changed like actors and it wasn't really a part of the MCU until they kind of shoved it in, so it's like different feel, so they just kind of just like write it off a lot of people, but it's actually not that bad. I don't At least like I'd give it at worst like a mediocre or passable rating. Like it definitely is decent, at least in the score in it is actually surprisingly awesome.
I mean, like you think about it, right? Like okay, so like Sean, like let's go through like the Phase One movies really quickly.
Hmm.
Phase One, Phase One was Iron Man one, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man two, Thor, Captain America, and the Avengers, right? And like the thing about like Phase One, like Marvel was not the MCU yet. You
Yeah,
know what I
no.
mean?
Iron Man was very good, and
Mhm.
Avengers for its time was good, but nowadays it's kind of like average. But yeah, and then all the others are like kind of mediocre, honestly, or just passable. It's the same thing like DC had outside of Suicide Squad and first Justice League, those trash films. Outside of that, it was pretty much the same level as the first phase of the MCU. That's why I said they should have just kept going with it, and it could have, been as popular and stuff. Because just MCU just kept pushing it. It's not because they made amazing films.
I mean, yeah, because like for me, what was Phase One? Phase One was all the way back in 2008. That was over 13 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
That's a
that's when the
long,
first Iron Man came out. Yeah.
yeah, that's a long time. And like I
Mm.
remember like when I first saw these movies, I was in college. You know what I mean? Like I was like I went to it was the summertime. I had school and work off. It was just a fun movie. You know what I mean? Like for me, like when I was watching these movies, I didn't have all these expectations that people have now with the MCU. I just wanted to watch a fun movie. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I feel like nowadays people, especially No Way Home, like everyone has all these unrealistic expectations of the movie. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, like calm down. Just like,
Yeah, I
lower them a
agree.
little bit. Just enjoy the movie because it's probably not going to have everything you want in it. It's probably not going to have everyone you want in it. It's not. It's probably it might not even be that good. You know what I mean? But like, if
Yeah,
you go watch in with lower expectations, that's how it should be. I feel like, yeah,
yeah. I mean, I don't consider them really the majority of them to be like very good films or anything, but I still enjoy them
exactly.
for what they are.
Exactly, dude. And it's like all these Marvel fans. I mean, people rag on like Snyder cult fans and Snyder fans stuff like that. Dude, but MCU fans are like probably just as bad as they are. Really, when you think about it, because they're like really they're very like when the Eternals came out. For some reason, the Eternals is not on this ranking list. But when the Eternals came out, like all these Marvel fanboys were defending the fuck out of that movie, dude.
Oh God.
Like they were like, dude, like you guys are in denial, man. This movie sucks. It's trash. Chloe
Uh,
Zhao made the first bad Marvel movie. Well, actually, no. She made the
Not the
worst one.
first,
No,
but
no, no. She made the worst. She made the
I
worst.
don't know if it's really the worst, but like God. I just don't get people who say she's at least she tried something different. She swung for the fences. No, that's what they wanted to do and advertise, but no, they didn't because Chloe Zhao's a hack who doesn't know how to direct. She makes very surface level films, just basic stories, and that's what she did with Eternals. She didn't swing for the fences. It was like the most generic, cliche, basic, like humanity love story ever, and it was just 85% of the runtime just characters messing around like any other MCU film, and then weak climax, weak fights. That's it. Didn't do anything. I mean, I would say it's better than like Thor: The Dark World, Captain Marvel. Though
Oh, wait, okay? Thor: Dark World, I understand, but Captain Marvel, you don't think Captain Marvel is better than the Eternals?
it's no, it's made like the quality of like the filmmaking is about the same.
Oh, okay, yeah, quality. Okay,
The leads and characters suck more. Story sucks. Like the first like act out of 3 were decent, but the rest were just trash. Just there's
yeah,
nothing I liked about it. Like Captain Marvel isn't the worst made MCU film. That's definitely Thor: The Dark World, but it's the most. It's the one that I want to rewatch the least out of them all.
exactly. Yeah, I think like when was the last time I saw Captain Marvel in the theaters? I haven't gone back to watch it, rewatch it, or stream it on Disney Plus. I'm not going to. F that movie. That
Yeah,
movie is so
it
terrible.
only
That
made a
movie,
billion because they thought you needed to watch it before Endgame.
exactly. You know what, Sean? Marvel placed it in front of Endgame on purpose because they knew how shitty that
Hmm.
was. They were like, you know what? The only way we're gonna make a lot of money is if we boost it in front of Endgame.
Yep.
So it's like that's. I mean, everyone knows it. Like, come on, that's like common knowledge. But anyway, yeah.
And
So
And that's
back
also
to
why they put Eternals in between those two, because everybody was gonna see Shang-Chi and No Way Home most likely,
exactly,
all the Marvel fans. So then they're like, well, if we saw those two, then we might as well see Eternals as well in between.
exactly. Okay, well, let's get back to the ranking. We only got a few left, but I want to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy #1. And
Ooh.
my pick is better than it should have
Uh,
been. Hang on. Sean, I'm okay. Sean, I'm gonna give you your chance to talk, but I want to say one thing really quickly about this movie is that
well, I don't have
I'm not
much to say. Honestly,
okay.
just solid flick. Out of all the Marvel MCU films, this was one of my favorite.
Oh, really? Well, I will say this: that this movie, I didn't have any expectations because I didn't know anything about these characters. I mean, like, I was like, it's a
Same.
new yeah, it's a new property, their first movie, and it's getting good reviews. And I was like, whoa, like this is, this came this came out after Winter Soldier, so this was actually a pretty good year for Marvel in terms of like,
Hmm.
movies. Had no expectations, didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, had my
I
doubts.
Exactly. When I saw it, I was pleasantly surprised, and I actually bought the DVD. I own this. It's one of the few movies that I actually own from Marvel. It's a lot of fun. Tone wise, I think it's very entertaining. It has a lot of humor. It's a lot funnier than I thought it would be. Um, the villain, we all know Marvel sort of has a villain problem, but I felt like the villain in this was actually pretty menacing. I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, I
Um,
just cared for all the characters, which is a rarity with these films. They actually made like the
exactly.
characters lots of depth. And I thought the second one,
Exactly.
like, it definitely wasn't as good as the first, but I thought it was at least a standard one in my opinion.
I put the second one in trash because I didn't like that movie. But
Uh,
no, this
definitely weaker, but
Yeah, but this one, I'll put it better than it should have been. I know that they're just starting to shoot volume 3 now, so hopefully that'll be at least better than part 2. Probably not as good as 1. I think expectations wise, I'll probably be right in between.
yeah,
Um, but
agree.
but yeah. So this movie is fun. It's definitely like better than it should have been. I don't know if it's like great movie, but it's all right. It's fun. So would you agree, Sean, or would you put it like higher?
Well, I'd put in, I mean, put it in like solid flick because I don't know, in my eyes, like, I don't know, like how you're doing the tier,
Oh,
like what
okay.
you would rate them out of 10, this tier list, but solid flick would be like a 6 to 7 out of 10 for me, and that's what I would put the first Guardian, so I'd put in solid flick.
Okay. Right on. Right on. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've got a couple of picks for Solid Flick. And speaking of Solid Flick, I want to jump right. This is a controversial choice. Okay. Everyone watching. Everyone watching replay it live and all this stuff. This is a controversial pick. I put the Thor flick on Solid Flick. Thor won at the top. And the reason I do that is because this movie is one of the most underrated movies, probably the most underrated movie in the MCU.
Yeah.
It's also, the origin movies, in my opinion, are like the hardest to nail. They're the hardest to do because you have to introduce a character and you have to make people interested and want to see more. And this is, for me, this is the only good Thor movie. I don't like Ragnarok. I put Ragnarok straight in trash because Ragnarok is not supposed to be a comedy; it's supposed to be a drama. But never mind that. This Thor movie was great. I thought Kenneth Branagh did an excellent job. I don't know what he should have been brought back. He should have been brought back to do the sequels. I thought this was a nice introduction for Thor. And I said this in my review of Ragnarok and Dark World. Natalie Portman is I don't know what she's doing in these movies. She's there just basically just to ogle Chris Hemsworth and act like a little high school cheerleader or something like that around him. It's just she doesn't she's too good for these movies. But I will say that
Mm,
you know the action was pretty good. One of my few complaints about this movie is that there's not enough epic action in this movie, and this movie should have action in it that's epic because it's about Thor. Thor is a god. Okay,
yeah,
so like the whole fight scene with the frost giants was awesome. I loved that fight scene. That's a great scene. But then after that,
yeah.
there's no really good action after that. There's nothing. So, but I don't know. It's just I love this movie. I can't say why, but yeah, Sean, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I would put it with. I mean, there's few like tiers on this thing here, so I don't know where exactly it would be, but like in between not great and trash, I would put if there was a tier for that there. Like same with like Age of Ultron. It's not bad, but it's like just painfully mediocre in my opinion.
Hmm.
I did like enjoy it first watch for what it was. Like I didn't take it like too seriously to some of the things they did as other people did, but just wasn't anything special from start to finish. Really, just very kind of generic. But I mean, just a
Yeah.
bit boring at parts. And yeah, Jane Foster, God, worst character in the MCU, and
Oh
then
yeah.
Captain Marvel second.
Yep.
And I just don't like. Yeah, you said she's too good for these films. Honestly, I'm hot take, but I'm not really a fan of Natalie Portman. Okay, so Black
Okay.
Swan. Black Swan. I'm surprised that was actually her. That was one of like the best female performances ever.
Yeah.
Like that was just shocking. But take away that performance, and yeah, her filmography looks good. She's been in a lot of like amazing films, but she's always been like the weakest part of them and just not that good. She's just like, and she needs like amazing directors to be elevated. Like if she's in like just a so-so film, she's just trash. Like I'm not a fan of her. I think she's like the most overrated actress ever. When you take away
Mhm.
Black Swan,
Yeah. No. Absolutely. And if Black Swan are the MCU, then that would make the MCU a hell of a lot better than it is. But Black Swan is a great film too. Yeah, I love the movie. But in this movie, she's completely wasted. I
yeah.
honestly, like I said, I don't know what the hell
Well,
she's
the
doing in
character's
this.
just pointless.
Exactly. Exactly. And
But no, I'll give What If credit though. That Thor episode, I give it credit for it made literally like the three most discarded just or hated or whatever characters ever in the MCU: Jane Foster, Captain Marvel, and Howard the Duck.
oh yeah.
Extremely likable in that episode. They were like the best parts of that. Made them extremely likable. Yeah, the rest of the episode was kind of bad, but yeah, I give it credit for that though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this movie was yeah. I don't know, and as you can see, Sean, I don't know if you agree with me. I put What If at the very bottom. I think it's worse than Trash.
Ooh.
I do not like What If.
I mean,
I
I didn't
didn't
either.
like.
Like honestly, I didn't
Yeah,
take it seriously. I just thought of it as like just like a cartoon, whatever. Like
exactly.
not part of anything. Just just watch it if it's on, whatever. But for the budget they were given though, and on a streaming service though, like it should have been better made. Like the animation was just, God, it was like amateurish. Honestly, just like I'm fine with like the whole idea of those type of shows if they want to do them, but I expect higher quality than that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, dude, like if this is the kind of animation and stories that we're getting from Marvel, like I'm afraid for Spider-Man freshman year because they say that the animation in that is going to be exactly the same as this, and I'm like, I mean, it's just like,
Oh, what?
and then the level, yeah, no, dude, like
I hate that
freshman year,
animation style.
it is pretty bad. It's jarring, you know. So,
God.
but yeah, I'm not a
Like there's
fan.
this
But anyway,
animated
so
film that the director of Train to Busan did. He did like it
mhm.
was Soul. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's on YouTube, but it's like an animated zombie flick he did just in
Oh, okay.
Korea after to Busan, which was supposed to be a bit of a prequel for it. The
Hmm.
animation style, that's what it reminds me of. That's what it reminds me of, and it was definitely not great. I just hate the animation style.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love Train to Busan, but I hate. Yeah, that sounds disappointing. Um, so the next film, speaking of disappointing, is Iron Man 3, and that's
Uh,
quite a very controversial movie in the MCU. A lot of people do not like it. I'm gonna
I
put it
liked
in.
it.
You like it? Okay. Well, I'm gonna put it
Yeah,
in not. I'm gonna put it in not great, not horrible, standard MCU fare.
yeah.
Um, I will say that I liked it because it is, you know, from the trailer. Okay, all right, before I saw this movie, I saw the trailer, and the trailer for it was very dark. It looked like a lot more like a darker film. You know what I mean? It looked like it had more stakes.
Hmm.
It felt like, especially after Avengers, it felt a lot darker than that. And so I was interested to see where this movie would go. And I like the fact that it is the factual wise, it is darker. It's a little bit darker story than like the first two Iron Man movies. Um, and you know that it gives Pepper Potts something more to do. Um, and okay, I'm also gonna say this. I like the villain. I like the villain. Like a lot of people hate.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people don't like him. I'm like, why not? I thought because here's the thing: the villain is supposed to be unlikable, right? He's supposed to be menacing. He's supposed to be, just like a challenge to the hero, right?
Well, I
I,
didn't get that from him, honestly.
really?
Just I forgot there was even a villain in this.
Well, it was Aldrich Killian. It was like the guy who could, like the guy who, with he injected himself with that virus or whatever.
Yeah, but I just it was very forgettable in my opinion. Just there, he doesn't do much really, in my opinion, from what I
Mm.
remember. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I will say like I do like that. Doesn't mean I think the film's like good. I just think it's standard. Like I would just give it like an average rating.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Yeah.
did actually like it. Now it's also the most disappointing film in the MCU because yeah, going into Iron Man 3, I wanted a more serious one like the first and which
Mm-hmm.
they advertise. If they made this like the second film instead, or like combined the two and made that the second one, and then did a more serious one for the third one, then I don't think this would be hated. It's just people wanted the serious one and were disappointed about this like campy Iron Man film. But I actually thought it did a great job though at that, like comedic style and stuff, and with the Iron Man character, it was quite colorful.
Mm-hmm.
I like the director. I mean, he did The Predator recently, which
Yep.
was bad, but he did The Nice Guys, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a fan of him, and honestly, I enjoyed this. So yeah, it was disappointing, but I still enjoyed it for what it was for that reason.
And I mean, like I think the third act probably has the strongest third act, like action wise. Like when they're all fighting on the docks or whatever, and it's like that army of like Iron Man robots versus like the soldiers or whatever.
Yeah,
Like I like especially when you have like Robert Downey Jr. and Don Cheadle and they're like jumping
yeah, it
from
was
suit
such
to
a
suit.
colorful Iron Man film.
Exactly.
Yeah, and with the
Exactly.
plane scene as well, like it does a great job at that. And if they just made this like not the last Iron Man film, then it would have been
Hmm.
great in my opinion. A lot of people would have thought so. I think.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I will say this: a lot of people did not like the twist about the Mandarin being just an actor. For
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I'm mixed on it. Yeah, it definitely wasn't great.
Hmm. Yeah, for that, I have this response to all the haters for that. Like Ben Kingsley was like 70-year-old man in that movie, like, and he's shorter than Robert Downey Jr. What did you realistically expect him to do against him? Like it was just like, you know what I mean? Like what I mean, they did of course bring back the real Mandarin in what's called Shang-Chi. And then they also brought back Ben Kingsley for some reason. But it was just, yeah, in this movie I was fine with the twist. It didn't bother me at all. I guess I was a little bit let down, but at the same time, like I liked the actual main villain so much that I didn't care. So it was just like, but everyone, I know a lot of people did not like this movie. Like they hate this movie. Um, but
Mm,
it's fine because I enjoyed it. So there you go. All right, so we only got a few left, but I'm gonna say Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2. I'm gonna put in trash.
agree.
I don't know, Sean. What are your initial thoughts on this movie?
Um, again, if there was a tier below not great, like it again, like if there was just like a 1 through 10 out of 10 tier thing for like just each rating, then I would just put it in mediocre 4 out of 10, like Age of Ultron and them.
Mm-hmm.
Like it isn't bad, but if going off of these, yeah, this is definitely trash. Definitely was not good at in the slightest. I kind of forgot the majority of things about this. Honestly, it was just
Mm-hmm.
it didn't. achieve anything well at all. Like Mickey Rourke wasn't good in it really. Oh, was Don Cheadle in this, or was it that different actor?
It was Don Cheadle.
Okay, yeah, he wasn't great in it either. Iron Man, yeah, it was too campy. Like, and like Iron Man 3 did this better than Iron Man 2. Just it's just messy.
Hmm.
God.
Yeah. Also, it's worth bringing up. I think that this movie was also a victim of the writer's strike. Back in
True.
what was it,
Probably, yeah.
2010?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see
So
that
a lot
looking
of
back
movies.
on scenes.
Yep, a lot of movies from like 29 from 2009, 2010 were like affected negatively by the writer's strike. This movie is one of them. This movie, a lot of people, it gets a lot of hate, and I agree with it. I'll ask you this, Sean. Do you think it would have been better if Terrence Howard had stayed in that role the whole time?
Terrence Howard, I that's hard to say honestly. I think they're both good. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm just trying to remember what type of films again Terrence Howard was in before this. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, right. He was in Hustle and Flow. I mean, I think they. I think they replaced him with a better actor,
Hmm.
but I mean, I don't know if he fit the character as well. Maybe I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and absolutely, I think maybe part of the reason why you're unsure is because he only got one movie, so it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to really dictate, like, kind of judge it based on just one film alone.
Yeah,
That's
it's
that's
weird when
why.
they do that. Like they did it with
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke. They do. I just don't. It's weird, but whatever. I also remember fucking Sam Rockwell had like a small role in this.
Oh
Forgot
yeah.
about that.
Dude, he was. I mean, okay. Here's the thing, right? You had the villains, right, played by Mickey Rourke and Sam Rockwell, and two of them, like Mickey Rourke, is like Oscar nominated actor, and I think actually, yeah, Sam Rockwell is also Oscar nominated, or
Yeah.
award,
Well,
whatever.
Sam Rockwell. Yeah, won one for Three Billboards. Supported one,
Exactly.
and yeah, Mickey Rourke should have won it though for the wrestler.
Oh yeah, he's great.
They screwed him over with Sean Penn. You know, kissing his
Yeah.
ass, but whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean, Hollywood's, yeah. Anyway, but I'm not going to comment on politics. But I
Yeah.
will say this. I will say this. Yeah. This movie is trash. I mean, it's not a good movie. There's really really hard, very few things to like about this movie. I like the fight between Iron Man and War Machine, like in the
Mm.
house. That fight was kind of cool.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was good.
yeah, dude, they completely fucking wasted Mickey Rourke in this movie.
They
What the
wasted a
hell was he
lot of
even
them.
doing in this movie, dude?
I
This
don't know.
movie, it was trash. This movie is trash. There's no
Yeah,
other better way to put it.
yeah, and some of the scenes with Mickey Rourke, it's like he just showed up drunk on set
Oh
or
yeah, no,
high.
I believe that.
Uh,
Yeah, because they didn't know what they were doing. Um,
yeah.
okay, so on to the three best movies. Okay, so I'm just gonna steamroll through this really quickly. I'm gonna put all three of these: the Avengers, solid flick; Iron Man, solid flick; Endgame, solid flick. And I'm putting them top tier, 10 out of 10 for me. I love these movies. I think Iron Man obviously is the one that started it all. It is one of the best superhero movies probably ever made. Robert Downey Jr. I'll say this. Okay, I have a question for you, Sean. So do you feel like as the MCU progressed, do you feel like Robert Downey Jr. his character of Tony Stark like got more comedic, like way more funnier than like it like actually began?
Um. Yes, outside of then Endgame,
Hmm.
but I mean, outside of moments, I would say, yeah, he did get more comedic, and then they like made him like act more serious, like near the end of like each film or at like the start of it as well, just to like try to swerve it. But I don't know. It's like throughout that most of the runtime though, it's like oh, but he wasn't acting like that. Like War, I love that ending though, and then when he like drops his shield, like that was great. I
Hmm.
wish we got more of that seriousness in the MCU, but like just a bit more of that.
Yeah, no, I think where did I put Civil War? Yeah, I put Civil War like just below Solid Flick, but I would say yeah, I love Iron Man one. It is like just one. I mean, first of all, it was like a great comeback for Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
That was his year, man. He did Tropic Thunder also that year,
Mhm.
and so he had a great year that year. And that movie
Yeah.
just like for me, obviously this movie. was, it came out before the MCU was the MCU. Like it
Mhm.
was like, just came out of nowhere, and it is, yeah, one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. Um,
I mean, I
Jeff
would have
Bridges.
to rewatch all of these honestly because it's been a while. But from where I stand at the moment, yeah, the first Iron Man, the first Guardians, and probably like Infinity War are my favorites.
hmm I mean, do you like Doctor Strange? Because a lot of people don't like Doctor Strange. I like that movie.
I like it, but it's just solid. It's not. It's like it's the one in the MCU where it's like it's it's like right in the middle of like all of them. I'd say honestly,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah, it's just barely good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't like, for me, I like Doctor Strange. I didn't put it in like top tier solid flick. It's not 10 out of 10 for me, or 9 out of 10 or anything like that. For me, it's more like seven maybe to 8. But like, I like Doctor Strange because it tries to do certain things a little bit differently than a lot of the Marvel movies do. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, I just, especially the third act where he's like, oh, Dormammu kind of bargain. Like, that was fucking hilarious. Like,
yeah.
that part is
I
funny
mean,
as
I
fuck.
would give it a 6, but I mean, the highest rating I'd give it an MCU film so far is a 7, so that's pretty damn good for my rating system. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah. So I
exactly.
wanna see, damn you. So you love the first Avengers, so you don't think it has like gotten weaker over time?
So I think it's too long.
Yeah, do you not think it's like weaker over time now?
Um, no, I don't think so, because I rewatched it like yesterday and
Mm,
it still really holds up.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I had a blast with it, yeah, still, but yeah, don't know if
you
I put it as highly as before though.
man, man, the Avengers, like, it didn't disappoint. Okay, so here's the thing, right? We were saying before, like a little while ago, how like the MCU tends to be kind of disappointing because the expectations are so high. Like, this movie met all my expectations. It was so much fun. It has a good villain, has really good action. It's not too long, and there's really no slow parts to it. And
Mm,
for me, all of those things are weaknesses that Avengers: Age of Ultron has. Um, that movie is, where did I put it? It's trash. I put Ultron as trash.
yeah,
Yeah, that movie is just
where
horrible.
it belongs.
Absolutely, yeah. No, yeah, exactly. But I love the first Avengers movie. I love the first Iron Man movie, and I also love Endgame. I put, okay, I have a hot take. I put Infinity War in trash because I
Yeah.
don't like that movie. I think it's so overrated. I think everyone loves that movie way too much. Endgame is a better movie than Infinity War.
Uh, I would
Yeah.
say people do overrate it just for the plain fact of how it ends. I think, well, like if you look at the rest of the film, it isn't like amazing. It's just mostly standard MCU fare. But I mean, I'd put it like at least a tier higher in my opinion.
Mhm.
But Endgame, yeah, I gave it like a good rating, a 6 out of 10, just for what it represents. Like this is like so many years in the making just to see this on screen.
Yeah.
Like everybody, like fucking, even in like their 70s or dead, even like dead people died before this came out. Just every like years in the making, and I have to respect it. So I gave it a good rating, just
Exactly.
barely a 6 out of 10. But outside of that, honestly, I was not that into that film at. I thought it was the most cookie cutter blockbuster film ever
Mhm.
made.
Yeah, I liked Endgame. I mean, for me, it's one of the best theater experiences I've ever had.
Mm. Yeah, I can believe that. Yeah.
And I mean, like, Endgame. Okay, so, yeah, Endgame is just a movie that didn't disappoint. Like, I know a lot of people complain, oh, it didn't need to be 3 hours, or the whole second act where they go back in time. You know what I mean? Is boring. I'm like, dude, like,
Well,
I love the second act.
yeah, I mean, I don't think it was boring or whatever. It
Yeah.
was still fun, but I do think it like they just pushed it to 3 hours just because it's like all these. They look at all these like finale blockbusters, huge, gigantic like films, like in other franchises, and they're like, oh yeah, they're like 3 hours. Okay, we got to make this 3 hours, and hype it up more. Like this is really
Exactly.
just, in my opinion, a definition of just like something, just like advertisement hype. Like for example, like the final fight was literally just like a grocery list of like, okay, Ant-Man, now you have a scene, all right? Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like just like writing off fucking lists of like characters haven't seen, like getting screen time during the fight. Like I didn't think it was well choreographed really at all. It was just I just was not into it personally, but I totally get why people love it though. And especially what it represents, as I said.
I mean, it's like you think. Okay, so I have a question because, like, for me, like before, wait, this came out in 2019. So, like, for me, the closest movie to Endgame is probably Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Um, because that movie's really long. It's actually
But,
that movie's
well,
longer
yeah,
than this
well
one.
that's what it tried to be. Yeah, like the Return of the King, but I just thought it came off as desperate personally. It was also just completely predictable. Like we all knew how like everything would go in
Hmm.
the film, like how like Iron Man would sacrifice himself at the end. Like I could have wrote the screenplay for Endgame in one night in my sleep,
No, absolutely.
honestly.
And dude, that's the thing, Sean. Like, I mean, I've been saying this too, but like the MCU is very predictable. Like
Yeah,
the MCU plays things safe. You know what I mean? Like DCEU takes chances. Everybody shits all over DCEU. Everybody hates all over
yeah.
the
Well, that's
DCEU.
why when they finally make a good film, it's like better than every other MCU film, like Shazam, almost, or even, or is like Shazam, the Suicide Squad. You know,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I like Shazam. Like the Suicide. I mean, I don't know why the Suicide Squad bombed so badly.
just
Um,
because streaming service and still the pandemic a lot.
maybe. I mean, because like even Birds of Prey did better than that. Birds of Prey. Oh man, Birds of Prey belongs in trash. Like
Yeah.
that
Well,
is a
that was
trash.
in 29th. Wait, was it out? No, sorry, it was 2020. Was it?
Oh yeah, 2020. Yeah, right before the pandemic
Oh,
hit.
yeah. Well, yeah. So
Literally.
didn't make money because of that.
But yeah, man, a lot of people say this too. I have a question. Like, a lot of people say the MCU should have ended with Endgame. Like, do you
Uh,
agree with that? Like, so far, based on what you've seen
like
so far.
I don't get what they mean by that. Like listen, I get if like you're not like hyped to like see what goes on after that. Like if you think it's never gonna reach that like peak, which it probably
Hmm.
won't, and
Hmm.
like you're not into like all this stuff they're doing now from like. But listen, like they're not forcing you like to keep watching. Now, if you want to like stop at there, that's fine. Like
Hmm.
it's like if you want to treat just like the first 23 up to Endgame as just like the MCU, then that's fine. But
Hmm.
I just treat it as like just don't take it seriously. It's not going to reach that peak again. Just watch for the hell of it, see where it goes from there. Might surprise you at
Exactly.
points.
And for me personally, the only really solid thing that they've done, is actually on this list too. In Phase Four is Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think that's the best thing they've done in Phase Four since Endgame. Um, some people say Shang Chi, or some people say WandaVision. I'm like, no, it's Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, what do you think about that?
For the best show or
I mean, like just best product period, whether it's a movie or show.
yeah, Falcon Winter Soldier. I mean, definitely one of the best. I'd say honestly.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that thing is way better. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, guys. So that pretty much concludes this tier ranking. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank Sean for stopping by. It was cool. Like I said,
Yep.
this channel, everyone watching in the replay and live, whatever, like we will be continuing to make all the content that we've been making so far. But I'm expanding by doing movie talk and TV talk too, because that's where I'm really interested in, and more passionate about movies and stuff. So everyone, you'll be basically be a good variety of content. And so that's gonna end it from me, Sean. Peace out, man. I'll see you later, and
Yep. See ya.
you'll see you on another stream. And everyone watching, thank you very much, and take care. See ya.